Hey guys, I know we would all love to have a personal chef in the kitchen. Well, today you have one. I'm here with my friend Chef Patrick, and he is going to show us some great kitchen tips and tricks that will make your time in the kitchen so much easier.
Okay, hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about knives. I know some people are always wondering about what knife do I use for what? What is the difference between knives? How do I properly hold it? We're going to discuss those things today to give you a little bit of leg up and help you be a little safer in the kitchen. Most importantly, always make sure you're comfortable with your knife. As you see on my board here, I do have 4 different knives. All right, they all have their own purpose. This little paring knife is what a lot of people like to use. And why they like to use a paring knife? It's small, they can control it easily. All right, the problem with the paring knife though is you're gonna need to make a lot more cuts. If I'm cutting up this nice big red pepper, I have to make a lot of cuts with this. The law of statistics has taught me the more cuts I make, the more likely I am to have an accident. So it's really important we use the right tool for the right job. These paring knives are really great for using for small detailed work. So say, all right, besides just peeling a potato, a lot of people like to peel with a potato and I could do that. All right, but maybe I'm cutting up, smaller vegetables. All right, maybe baby carrots or something like that. So that makes it a lot easier for me to work with this paring knife. Or if I'm doing some garnish work, if you want to get into fruit carvings or vegetable carvings, this is really your best tool for that is your paring knife. All right, so it is a great tool to have. This next one here is what's called a boning knife. You can usually tell that by the shape. It has a thinner profile on the blade. All right, this is great for just like it sounds, for boning. So say I want to take a whole chicken and I want to take that chicken apart into pieces. This boning knife works really well because I can get into those smaller crevices without leaving too much of the meat on the carcass. So I'm able just to take the meat away and leave the bones behind. Same thing if I had a boned-in piece of meat, boned-in piece of beef. Maybe I want to do a nice like outlaw ribeye or cowboy ribeye steak. All right, I could take that and work my way around those bones. All right, to clean up those bones with a boning knife. Works very well for that. Next is our serrated knife. It's that wonderful knife that has those nice bumpy grooves on it. Okay, with those serrated knives. All right, most people just call them a bread knife because that's its main purpose is for slicing bread. But what a lot of people don't think as well, it's also really good for slicing anything soft. So say I have some tomatoes that got really ripe. If I were to take any of these other knives and do that tomato, I'm gonna squish that tomato because I need to use that pressure to make that knife work properly. But with the serrated knife, I can gently saw through it so that really ripe tomato, I'm not smushing it, but I'm still able to get a nice cut on it. So really for this one, breads or anything really soft works out fantastic with that. And then a knife that does most of the work in the kitchen, this is a knife you should really start to get comfortable with. This is what's called a chef knife, or also referred to as a French chef knife. Right? These knives should be doing a lot of the work. All right? They do big chopping, so I can chop, I can mince, I can dice, I can julienne, or any of those other wonderful culinary terms that we use for slicing things up. But this is the one that I want to use. So no matter what type of knife you're using, today we're using these nice Cutco knives. And by using this Cutco knife, what I want to do when I'm properly holding this knife is I take my index finger and thumb, I pinch on the blade. And a lot of people think like, I don't want to get on the blade, but this is your proper way. You want to pinch onto the blade first, wrap your other 3 fingers around the handle, and now that knife has become an extension of your hand. You know you're holding it right when you can look at the spine of that knife. It comes through the center of your hand and through the center of your arm. It's now an extension. What a lot of people like to do is they hold it like this. And they chop, chop, chop away. And what that does, it eventually wears out your wrist because you're flicking more with your wrist than you are actually slicing or using the way this knife was intended to be used. Right? Another thing people like to do is they put their finger on top. All right, so they're thinking they're getting everything right, but the problem with this is a little bit of wiggle with that finger moves the bottom edge of that blade a lot. So now if I'm cutting and all of a sudden I move that a little bit, I may end up cutting something I don't want to. So you can stay a lot safer just by simply pinching the blade, wrapping your fingers around the handle, and now you're in proper position. The next mistake people make is they go straight up and down with knives. Knives are not designed as choppers. They are designed to slice. Cutco makes a lot of time to develop that arc in that blade. The reason they use that arc is because I'm going to keep the first inch of that blade on my cutting board and I'm going to push down and forward. I draw it back, down and forward. So you get a nice smooth cutting motion and I don't hear that knife banging into the board. The more the knife bangs into your board, the quicker your knife is going to dull. and we want to keep our knives nice and sharp, so we're always cutting cleanly and safely. So just this simple motion, and as you can kind of see, I'm using kind of my whole arm. I'm not just flicking with my wrist. I'm using my whole arm to do this without any problem getting tired out. Now, the number one thing that happens with people in kitchens, they get this part down really well for the righties or the lefties, so they're holding that knife and everything's great, but then they have to worry about the other hand. So the biggest mistake people make is they go to hold something and they have their fingers spread out like this. And if you notice, so if I go to cut, that knife can see my fingers very, very easily. So what you want to do with your guide hand is what we do is we make it a C. So by making a C with that hand, then taking that hand, turning down, and you're pressing more with your fingernails, not so much with the pads of your fingers, but pressing with the fingernails on that food, and I tuck my thumb right behind to stabilize it. Now, when I put my knife up here, my knife can't see my fingertips. And if the knife can't see my fingertips, it makes it very hard to cut those fingertips. So by keeping that proper C position, I can cut with my knife very safely like this all day long without worrying about those fingertips. Okay? This is the thing you got to watch out for, is make sure you keep that thumb tucked behind. So there's a little knife tips there, 101 for you. All right, feel free to go out and buy a nice set of knives. If you get a nice set of knives, they will last you forever. All right, some people have always asked me, well, I bought this set of knives, and 5 years later I bought another set of knives, and 5 years later I bought another set of knives. Make the investment in a set of knife.
Thanks, Chef. You can get more kitchen tips from Chef Patrick right here on my YouTube channel. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. And be sure to check out more of my favorite easy recipes and quick tips. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.